All of us are aware that among the essentials of a valid contract is the feature that there can be two parties to a contract. We know that these are known as offerer, offeree, promiser, promisee, proposer, and proposee. So, there is a well established principle of the law of contracts which states that a stranger to a contract cannot sue upon it. Only a person who is party to a contract can sue upon it. In this video, I, Dr. Mariam Narona, will be discussing this rule and exceptions to this rule. So, who's a stranger to a contract? A contract is always between the offerer and the offeree, and as such, anybody other than these two parties would not be able to sue if that contract is violated by either of these parties. So you can be a stranger to a contract and you cannot sue upon it, but you can be a beneficiary of the consideration and then you can sue upon it. So let me say that supposing I purchase books for an orphanage and I order them on an e-commerce site. I pay 5,000 rupees, I select the titles, and those books are to be delivered to the orphanage which is in another city or which is in my city. If that delivery doesn't happen, then the orphanage can enforce that contract even though they did not form the contract. They were neither the buyer nor the seller, but they were the beneficiaries of the consideration paid by me. Okay, so they did not pay, I paid, but the contract was made for their benefit and therefore they were beneficiaries towards the consideration that was paid. So they were not party to the contract, but they were beneficiaries of the consideration which has been exchanged between me and the e-commerce player. So they are essentially strangers to the contract, but they can sue upon it. And so this is how we are going to take a look at some exceptions to the rule. Logically speaking, if you are not a party to the contract, you would not be able to sue upon it, but there are certain exceptions. We are going to discuss those. Now, in case of a trust, wherever there is an agreement to create a trust, that can be enforced by the beneficiaries of that trust. So if it could be an educational trust, it could be a religious trust, even though you're not the person forming that trust, you're not a trustee, you can still, as a beneficiary of that educational society or religious trust, you can sue upon that, because misuse of anything belonging to the trust which indirectly belongs to you or it benefits you, if your interests are jeopardized, you can sue upon it. So let's just say if A agrees to transfer certain properties to B to be held by a trust for the benefit of C, then C can enforce that agreement even though he was not party to the agreement between A and B. Then in case of a family settlement, where a family dispute is settled and it is reduced in writing, in some written form, it is documented, then the person for whose benefit these provisions are made under the family settlement may enforce the contract. So let's just say, take the example of a family settlement whereby some provision is made for the education of a girl child. Then such a girl child is entitled to sue for the recovery of her educational expenses even though she was not party to the dispute settlement directly. or she was not a petitioner in the court when the dispute or document relating to that became the outcome of that particular dispute. Then acknowledgement. Now, if the promisor by his conduct acknowledges himself as the agent of a third party, then a binding obligation follows. So, an agreement between a tenant and say a subtenant, who the tenant has sublet the property. So the person to whom it was sublet, let's say A was a tenant, B was the subtenant, and B was paying the rent directly to the landlord C. So by virtue of the landlord accepting the rent, so by that virtue, automatically, though the tenancy and subtenancy was not entered into by the landlord himself, but by virtue of that, such an arrangement, the landlord becomes eligible to collect the unpaid rent directly from the subtenant. Then assignment of contract. Now, whenever a contract is assigned, let's say in case of say an insurance policy, you can say an official assignee who is appointed whenever somebody becomes insolvent, then such people, the assignee of an insurance policy or the official assignee of an insolvent person, can sue on the contract even though they were originally not parties to the insurance contract, nor were they the person who was declared insolvent, but by virtue of them being assignees, then that is created, that assignment can create a valid contract even for strangers. Then agreements creating a charge on movable property. Wherever there is a contract between two parties for the benefit of a third party, and that creates a charge on certain immovable property for that purpose, then that can be enforced by the beneficiary. So say there's a contract between A and B, whereby A has mortgaged property to B, but that property which A has mortgaged is for the benefit of his child or his spouse or any family member, then that person can sue upon that contract. They can enforce such a contract even though they are not party to that mortgage between the A and B. Then contracts between agents. Now, wherever contracts are entered into by agents on behalf of the principal can enforce it even though he is not party to the contract, because the agent, if he has acted within the scope of the contract of agency and the authority which is defined by this contract, then he can act upon it. So I hope this video was useful in explaining the meaning of a stranger to a contract cannot sue upon it, and the exceptions to this rule. Do hit like if you like the content in this video, and please don't forget to subscribe, comment and share this video and other educational content on this channel. Thank you.